Y'all hear me? Y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you all for being with us. This is our fourth and final session in our 4-part series, Community Resources for Community Impact. And before we start, I wanted to once again thank the library so profusely for hosting this, doing all the registration, doing all the promotion, providing us the beautiful space, and all of their support that they give for the nonprofit sector. So, round of applause for the library. Thank you, thank you. And I wanted to thank the library staff for doing the AV and for coordinating all of the things. It's been super easy to just walk in and just talk to people. So, thank you. All of these sessions, if you haven't been here and haven't known, all these sessions are being recorded, and so that recording Cassie is going to send you that recording via email, so you will have that for yourself. And if there are any sessions you registered for and didn't attend, she's also going to send you the recording for those, so you'll have the recording for yourselves. And housekeeping rules, housekeeping things. Cassie said that our Segas is open for coffee. If anybody needs to run out and get something, you don't have to wait. We're going to go, I think, probably straight through, but feel free to just walk out and get something. Restrooms are over here in the hallway. I've meant to say that every session and I've always forgotten. So I think those are our things. I'm really glad to see you all back here. We have a couple of new faces today, I think, and so I would just like to do a quick introduction. I know those of you who've been here all 4 sessions know each other well now, which is awesome. But if you would just share your name and what organization you're with, if you're with an organization. And can I start here? Can I start with you, Sherry?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm Sherry Thompson. Hi. I'm the founder of the Parasite Prevention Institute, which Parasite is kids who kill their parents, and we do building models to try and create a prevention model. We also have the Parasite Podcast, which we do every 2 weeks, and we tell basically stories. It's just like qualitative analysis. Stories about kids who have killed their parents and what led up to it, and talk about the different personality types that do that. So
okay. Awesome.
We've got a nonprofit started. We're just trying to get that funded and in place firmly so that we can continue our research.
Awesome. Parasite Podcast, check it out every 2 weeks.
You want a sticker? I'll give you one.
Okay. Stickers from Sherry. Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for being here. Eric?
I'm Eric Sussmore. I work with the Washington Medicine County Drug Court and Veterans Treatment Court. We typically don't fundraise, but we do have a fundraiser through our nonprofit once a year for our participants. Always looking for different ways to raise money for that. But anyway, that's why I'm here. And her podcast is very good. I haven't listened to it.
Awesome. Joe?
My name is Joe. I'm on the board of directors of Free Geek Arkansas, which is a nonprofit here in Fayetteville. Its mission is to keep electronic waste out of landfills.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Quick introduction.
I'm Teresa Burke. I'm Executive Director of Cancer Challenge, or a nonprofit organization that helps those battling cancer in Northwest Arkansas.
Thanks, Teresa.
I'm Maya Baker, founder of Broken Baker, a life-changing commercial bakery run by a university, offering high-quality artisan bread to leading hospitality groups in the area.
Thanks, Tamara.
I'm Sean Kent. I'm the founder of Ozark Adaptive Sports Association. We cover as many Paralympic sports, wheelchair sports, all that stuff with physical disabilities, because none of that exists in Arkansas. So that's what we're trying to help cover for vets, for kids, for adults. You have an injury, come, even if you don't, come play some basketball or some rugby or some pickleball or tennis.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Kent. I'm with the Ozarks Adaptive Sports Association. It's my boss, the equipment manager.
Thanks, Art and Sean. Cassie, I don't know if everyone knows you. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm a reference librarian here at Fayetteville Public Library. It's nice to see you all.
Thanks, Cassie.
I'm Joey Hall. I'm with Girls on the Run of Northwest Arkansas, and I'm the program director.
Awesome, Joey. Thank you. Good to see you.
Hi, my name is Marta Nava from
Conexión de Negocios Latinos. We try to people to house a business or grow out of
Bienvenida.
Gracias.
Tiny Collins with Appleseeds. We have kids with where their food comes from, with a teaching farm, and inspire healthy living through garden-based education.
I'm Lisa Kolzak, and I'm sorry to say that I didn't realize that there were 3 previous sessions to this series. So, but I and a good friend are attempting to start an opera organization here in Fayetteville in Northwest Arkansas, and so we're kind of just in the very beginning stages of all that. So.
Awesome, Lisa, welcome. And you'll get the recording. I'm sure Cassie would share the recordings of the other 3 sessions with you.
Oh, that would be so fabulous.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
I'm Neil Curie, General Manager of the Goshen United Methodist Food Pantry. We served 123 households yesterday from 9 to 1.
Oh, just yesterday, 123. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Sandra.
Hi, I'm Sandra Gibbons. I do development and marketing over at the Northwest Arkansas Center for Sexual Assault. We provide free counseling services, forensic rape kit exams, community outreach, 24-hour hotline. So,
Welcome, Sandra.
I'm Addison Mahaffey, and as you probably may know by now, I work with Melanie.
You've received my presentations from Addison. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Addison.
Hi. Hi, my name is Mirna Ordóñez, and I am working for a nonprofit called Arkansas Latinas in BC, or Arkansas Latinas on Bikes. And pretty much we promote cycling in the Northwest Arkansas community, specifically in the multicultural communities here.
Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. I am Michael with Legal Aid of Arkansas. I'm in AmeriCorps Vista, serving as a development specialist. And our development specialist is supposed to be here, and I was meeting up with her. That's the point in the introduction that I would have introduced her. But I'm the strategic planning specialist, and I'm here serving a year with them, and yeah, doing program review, best practices, all those kinds of things.
Awesome. So good to see you back. Thanks for coming back. Did I miss anyone? I think that's everyone. Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to talk today about building your support network as a fundraiser. And so one of the things that I was hoping that we would do through this 4-part series is for us to get to know each other a little bit. I know that there are a lot of your organizations that have missions that are complementary or intersect in some way. And so also a lot of you are in similar positions in your fundraising career, or your volunteer fundraisers that are serving on boards, or your staff members that are kind of in a similar situation in your organization. And so I really hope that we can kind of stay in touch, and then that we have some of those connections. So I wanted to make sure that we did all of our introductions. So thank you for all that, and thank you all for being here. Like I said, this is our final session. And when Kelly and I were talking about doing this 4-part session, we were trying to decide what topics each of those 4 sessions should be. And we talked about doing program design, we talked about doing strategic planning, we talked about a lot of different topics, and we're kind of trying to narrow down what would be the most critical, most helpful. And I really wanted to do this session as the last session, building your support network, something that is not often talked about if you're a fundraiser, how you build support for yourself as a professional, and how you maintain a commitment to fundraising as time goes on, because as we all know, working in nonprofits or volunteering in nonprofits there's always fires in front of you that you're putting out constantly, and sometimes it's hard to lift yourself above that and kind of think long-term and commit to long-term things when you feel like you're just on the treadmill all the time. So I really wanted to take a session where we could talk about what kind of support you need moving forward, and what kind of support fundraisers generally need in a broad sense, and how to do that for yourself. And so this is really about you. We've talked a lot about kind of the nuts and bolts of fundraising, what you do for your organization. We've talked about overcoming fundraising fears, but this session is really about how we can build support for you as a fundraiser. And so I have some things I would like to share in a presentation, but part of this also is going to be pretty interactive. I'm hoping that we can talk about, what barriers you see to implementing fundraising at your organization, or to taking it to the next level, or whatever step you're here to learn about. So the first thing I would like to do, let me get my clicker, is a self-assessment. So we've talked about overcoming fears. We've talked about, the sort of logistics of fundraising. Talked about how to put a plan in place. But as I said last week, a great plan in fundraising is useless unless you are actually implementing it, right? Unless it's actually working for you. Just a little bit of time. I'm going to maybe 5 minutes or so and think about what are your challenges in having the fundraising success you want to have. So whatever step that is for you, you're in different stages of your fundraising programs potentially, but whatever stage you're in, wherever you're wanting to go next, what are the challenges that are in your way? And this could be things that are, in your organization that are in your way, or it can just be your personal things that are in your way, or mindset, or lack of knowledge, or other things that are in your way that are keeping you from fundraising. Anything that you want. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. I just want you to do a little bit of thinking about that and write it down for yourself. What are those challenges that are in your way? I'm going to do about 5 minutes of that. All right, about 30 more seconds. All right, let's talk a little bit about your challenges. So this is a list. This is the list you have to overcome, right? If this is fundraising is something that you are committed to, building sustainability for your program, which I would suggest is critical, that you ought to have that commitment. These are the things that you have to overcome, right? So some of these may be personal, not required to share, but does anyone want to share some of the challenges they're facing? Yes, Sean.
Finding those individual investors.
Okay.
Not acting like every other nonprofit as a bunch of money.
Okay. So in fundraising, we would call that donor prospecting is the term we would use. So finding the people. Okay. What else? Yes. Either one.
I'll go.
Go, Joe.
Finding individuals within our organization who have sufficient time available to devote to implementing all these things I've been learning over the past month.
Okay. So staff volunteer time.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, bless you. All right.
So in a similar vein to his, so I'll twist it just a little bit to be something newer. Our infrastructure for fundraising seems reactive and sustaining a lot of grants rather than proactive and best practices oriented. And so, yeah, I mean, we feel really locked into just managing this host of grants with all their peculiarities, and we don't have a lot of freedom to do anything outside of them. So that's hard for us.
Okay. So I would say maybe that's two things. Being proactive is a challenge, or the challenge of being proactive rather than reactive. And then grants dependent, maybe. Okay. What else? Yes, Tamara.
I would say, particularly in our case, is converting those people who keep saying, yes, we need more organizations like you doing what you're doing and hiring these people to really supporting us. Everything is based in words.
Okay. So people you have cultivated in some way that know you, that are familiar with you, but turning them into donors. Okay. Yes. Maybe turning friends into donors. Okay. What else? Yes, Sandra.
I'd say a lack of board involvement.
Mm-hmm.
We have maybe 20% board giving and have trouble
Ooh.
getting quorum when things need to be voted on.
You have a hard time getting what?
Quorum.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. What else?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Try to keep the leadership of the team focused in doing these kind of things. Sometimes, like it's more like, oh, let's do this fun stuff, but you're taking away time that you could use in order to fundraising or more important things to structure your organization.
Yes. I think that's a big one. Keeping the leaders focused. And then I had another one.
Size of the board,
Too small or too big?
too small.
Too small. Okay. Do you have a large board or a small board, Sandra? I'm curious.
9, so.
9, okay, so average size. Okay. Yes.
Mine's probably a little bit different. Completely and totally overwhelmed and not knowing what I'm doing. And
Overwhelmed.
I'm going to do it wrong.
Yes, okay. I'm going to put that in big letters. I won't ask for a show of hands, but I think you're in good company. I won't ask anyone to admit to it, but I'm pretty sure that we can relate, right? Anyone else? Okay, so this is a really good list, and I would say these are all really common things. So that's the first thing I'd say is that you're in good company because these are common challenges. And I see these, in a lot of different organizations too. So we can talk about each of these individually, a lot of it is going to come down to what's the culture of your organization and what are the people involved. So when I have organizations come to me, and this happens a lot, like my board is not involved. I can't get my board involved in fundraising. I can't get them to buy in to our fundraising. I can't get them to show up to meetings. That solution is different for different organizations. You know, sometimes I say, okay, is it a lack of knowledge of fundraising? You know, in that case, we can do a training with the board. Is it a lack of comfort in their role? Like maybe they wanted to contribute to the organization, and so they're a board member, but they don't really fit a board role, but they want to participate, and so they don't want to tell you they don't, so they just don't show up. Then it's a matter of, can we find a different volunteer opportunity that they could do instead, you know, to get them off the board. Sometimes it's board members are bored and they invent stuff, to Myrna's point. If they're not given meaningful work that makes good use of their skills, they want to contribute somehow, and so they start inventing things, which, to your point, you know, distracts everybody. So I think the solution to some of these problems are going to be different depending on what the situation is at your organization. But I think it's really important, whatever these challenges are, to think about a practical solution to this. And one of the things that I would suggest doing is whoever gets it at your organization, whoever really is on board already with you, brainstorm with them. You know, have a conversation with them about, okay, this is where we need to get to. We understand that we're 2 grants heavy. We understand that, you know, we don't have the time. Like, let's brainstorm a way to carve out that time to come up with a solution. And I think that if you have a targeted conversation, put it on your calendar, like this is a brainstorming session we're going to have. And sometimes it takes time to sort of chip away, right? Sometimes that you can't turn over your board in 1 year. Sometimes this is like a 2 or 3 year plan that which is fine. So don't feel like you have to solve these things next week. Coming up with some action steps to help is the important thing. So we'll talk about some of these. But I would be interested to know, I'm going to give you another, maybe not quite as long, maybe 3 minutes, to think about what kind of support do you need, you as a fundraiser, what kind of support do you need to address the issues that you've identified? What would help you? We're going to take maybe 3 minutes to kind of think about that. Yes? If you want to put it on, I mean, that's ambitious, Sean, but I believe in you, really. What kind of support would be helpful to you in overcoming those challenges? Okay. Does anyone want to share your solutions, the ideal solutions, your support? What would be helpful? Say it one more time, Sean. I'm sorry.
Mine was laughed at.
It's a good goal for your personal life. Who else has a support that would be helpful?
I think in my case it's like defining my role so I can focus and have clear expectations of what I'm going to do and telling the leaders, hey, this is what I'm going to be working on, and don't throw more stuff at me that I can handle.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes. I call that the why don't we? Because people love to say that, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? And what they mean is, why don't you do that?
Exactly.
Right? Am I right? Yes?
Right.
There's never the we. Like, where is the we? You're not showing up. You're meaning me. Okay. Yes. Define role, clear expectations. Yes. Who else? Joe.
So my challenge was staff/volunteer time. So it seemed like a pretty obvious need for me is more staff/volunteers.
Yes. Excellent. Okay. Who else?
I would say maybe this is really personal, because sometimes I feel that the board sees me as a Wonder Woman, because I have been able to take this organization by myself all this long and proving the concept and doing everything and running the bakery, running the nonprofit, and raising money and doing everything and all. That sometimes I feel, oh, yeah, this is idea. Do that. But this is another idea. Like, it is for me to execute. When it's not, this is that idea. What about if it's your idea, you run and you do the work? Don't give it to me. Or you need to do it in addition to everything else that I'm going to be doing.
Superhero syndrome.
Yeah.
You and Myrna have a lot to talk about. Yes, which is a real thing. I think, was it Irving Berlin that said the hardest thing about being a success is that you have to keep on being a success? Right, it's true.
I don't know, I already thinking about who I'm hiring first.
You're thinking about what?
Who I'm hiring first when I get there.
I'm fired.
Sorry, Art.
Gotta go.
Yes. Who you're hiring first? Do you mean staff position?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know which ones I need already.
Okay. Good. Yes.
Incorporating development support in the board contract.
Oh, yes. Yes. Development into the board contract. Yes. And I find that any changes on the board level, like you have to find the board members that get it and leverage them. You know what I mean? Like who is there? Do you have any allies that are in?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Leverage those to help get buy-in from others. I like to approach board members individually too, like not showing up to a board meeting saying, here's what we're doing, but I like to meet individually with them. And I like to make them think things are their idea, and then you get more buy-in. Right? Am I right? 100%. I'm really struggling with this. I don't know. And then the board member says, well, we could. That was a great idea. Yes. Would you help me do that? Yes. And then it is really a we, not a me. Yeah. I think groupthink just is your enemy, like in board meetings. Like there's one person that talks, everybody else just sort of goes along. Like you have to get them individually before the meeting. Anyway, that's my random thought. Who else? What other support? Yes.
Probably 3: experience, confidence, and knowing who to get services from when I'm like, over my head.
Okay. Where to find help? Great. And that's a journey. I mean, every fundraiser goes through. And I think you're going to be in good company, right? The more experience you have, the more confidence you have, the more the ball will roll. I think I said earlier that fundraising is like a snowball. It really is. Like you're going to start small. You're going to have 1 or 2 victories, and it's going to seem like you're putting in a lot of effort. But then, like, if you do it well, those people will tell other people, and then things will really start to snowball for you. So don't be discouraged if your ball is small at the beginning. Right. What else? Kind of support would be helpful to you. Yes.
Having a development plan that you signed off on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Development plan. Anything else that we want to add to this list?
Management buy-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would call that maybe, management or leadership buy-in.
Yeah.
Yes, which is critical. Okay. What else? This is a good list. I think I want to just touch on a few things, and I'm going to share some thoughts too. But I think a lot of these things come down to planning, come down to effective planning. And we talked last week about the development plan. If you weren't here, then Cassie will share the recording with you. You can find a lot of information online too about development plans. But I think that what my experience with organizations is, if you have a development plan, an annual plan, like this is the money we have to raise this year, this is how we're going to do it, this is how we agree that we're going to do it. And if you involve everybody in that process, like involve your board, involve your development committee members if you have one, involve your leadership staff, like usually people, there's buy-in to the fact that we have to meet our budget, right? You don't usually have to argue that point. Like, we have to meet our budget for next year. So if you start there and you say, okay, like here's the plan for how we're going to do that. And if you really do involve all these stakeholders and involve some training if necessary, if they don't understand what fundraising is, like involve some training, take the time to do that on the front end. It's a lot of work on the front end, and I especially believe in a one-on-one approach, especially with leadership. And it is a lot of time on your front end. And it's time that you're doing that like at the end of the year, like this time of year, right, for next year. But I think if you do that and everybody has a plan, it really helps a lot of this. It helps you get the leadership buy-in, because you can say, no, this is what we agreed. Remember, we did that, you did this, we did this, like this is what we're doing. I think if you have, to Myrna's point about defining your role, like if you have that development plan and it's clear, like this task is assigned to this person, like it's very clear, and you can say, okay, random requests for things that are coming in this year, like this plan is my full-time job, or I have 15 hours a week to devote to fundraising, and this is 15 hours of work. I always say with those random requests, okay, if we're going to do this, we meaning me, right? If we're going to do this, what do we take off of our development plan? Like, what do we eliminate from this plan that we put together? And of course, it needs to be an equivalent amount of money raised, right, to meet your budget. I think when I ask that question, people stop putting those random things. Or I say, that's a great idea. Let's talk about doing that next year in next year's development plan. And then you can design the plan around what you really have time to do. I think that will be a buffer for you when that happens. And then to Daimara's point about superhero syndrome, like if you have a development plan, board members have assignments in that development plan, or other staff members have assignments or whatever. I mean, you kind of lay it out. Here's what Daimara can realistically do, because she's also running the bakery and doing all the other things. Like, here is what we need everybody else to do. I think it kind of makes you have that conversation on the front end. So I think that helps with a lot of this. I would just encourage you again to put the time in to put together that plan. And then to Joe's point about staff and volunteer time, this is something I hear a lot with organizations too, from people who are volunteers, board members, and also from staff members. Like, I'm overwhelmed. There's too much to do. I've got a million fires to put out. Development is a long-term strategy, and it's hard for me to invest in the long term when I've got all these things I have to do today, and the phone is ringing, and all those things. So I would say, there's a saying that when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I'm a fundraising consultant, right? But I would argue that if you're spending a lot of time like launching new programs, if that's what's taking up your time, like if your current programs aren't sustainable, you don't need to be launching new ones, right? I would say, because make the programs you have sustainable first before then you start expanding. So if that's where you're devoting a lot of your time, like consider maybe postponing a year until you can raise your seed money, until you can build your donor base, whatever. I think sometimes we just don't prioritize fundraising. where we think, we do so much on the program side, and then we worry how we're going to fund it instead of raising the money then to launch the programs. It's a little bit of a cart and horse thing. So I would just consider what is distracting you in your time. And I think there's a lot of, I'm trying to think of the name of the man who came up with the graph of things that are urgent and important, urgent and not important, not urgent but important, not urgent, not important. Does this ring a bell with anybody? There you go. I think it's people use it in SWOT analysis, but there's a guy that anyway. I'll email this to you so that I'm not just rambling. But there are things that are important and urgent. There are things that are important but not urgent, which is fundraising. There are things that are seemingly urgent, like the phone ringing, but maybe not that important, and things that are not important and not urgent. So what I would suggest doing is kind of thinking about that and like, is it stuff that's not really important, but seemingly urgent, that's taken up all your time? And find a way to eliminate that, however you can. I used to spend a day working from home. Of course, we're all working from home now in COVID. But I used to spend a day working from home, and that's when I did a lot of my fundraising, correspondence and like planning, all that kind of stuff. Because if I was in the office, people would be sticking their head in every 5 minutes. Hey, Melanie, I need this. Hey, Melanie, I need this. But if I wasn't there, they wouldn't. So I was like, wait, you don't really need me, right? Because this is all happening when I'm not here. So maybe there are tricks in your schedule, tricks in your life that you can carve out the time. I would also sometimes, like if it was a time when we had a bunch of fundraising that was kind of coming to a head and I had to have fundraising time, I would just tell our staff, like, I need a couple days this week to work on this because this pays your salary, right? So unless the building's burning down, let's try to give me a couple days before we address these. So maybe you can do that. And then to Joe's point, of course, like have a large team. You want a large effective team, to Sandra's point. You don't want a large team that's not engaged. But find people that are really going to be worker bees for you and expand your team to help you. I think sometimes we don't do that because we feel like I can do it all myself, like we have that syndrome. But it's really important for us to get the help we need about any of that. I'm going to snag a drink of water. Any thoughts or challenges or anything about that? Okay, I would just consider those things. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a minute. So we talked in our first session about how you are fundraisers, right? You're all fundraisers because you're raising money for your organization. You're tasked with funding your budget. So you are all fundraisers. Even if you are a part-time fundraiser, volunteer fundraiser, staff fundraiser, doesn't matter. You're all fundraisers. So I would argue, and my fundraisers need professional development, self-motivation, which is really important, and fundraiser friends, meaning friends who are also fundraisers. And I think that a lot of what I would suggest to you falls in one of these three buckets. Okay, so professional development, you all are here. This is professional development, so I applaud you for carving out the time in your busy schedule to be here, which I'm glad to see all your faces, but also thank you for investing in yourself. But there are lots and lots of places to get great fundraising professional development. This is not an exhaustive list, but it's some of my favorites. Community-centric fundraising they do all kinds of webinars and newsletters and trainings and blogs and all that kind of stuff. The Grant Professionals Association, if you do grants work, it's a national organization, but we have an Arkansas, Oklahoma chapter, of which Addison and I both serve on the board. We're a great group of people, if I do say so myself. So we would love to have you involved with us in some way. We have membership scholarships that we offer twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. So if it's not in your budget to join us as a member, please apply for the scholarship. We do professional development, networking, that kind of thing. Obviously, you know about the library, what a great resource it is. The Nonprofit Resource Center up here at the top of the stairs is fantastic. Excuse me, guys. Nonprofit Quarterly, Chronicle, Philanthropy, and Blue Avocado are all publications, trade publications, which give you some great ideas, great way to keep kind of your finger on the pulse. Bloomerang is a donor database company, but they actually do a surprising number of really helpful trainings and presentations and articles and things like that. So if you follow them, if you get on their mailing list, you'll get a lot of stuff that's really useful, not just spam, legitimately useful stuff. Hispanics in Philanthropy is an organization that I've attended a lot of their trainings, which are also great. They do a lot of like panel discussions and stuff like that. National Council of Nonprofits, Women of Color and Fundraising and Philanthropy, and the Lilly School are all great resources. All right, I'm going to take a 5-minute break for my throat. Let's take about 5 minutes, please. Well, yes. I've had RSV, and my doctor says, I mean, it was like weeks ago. I'm no longer contagious, but I can't shake the cough.
Glad you're feeling better.
Yeah, thanks. I am mostly. I'm going to run the restroom.
Feel free to put it on the back of this evaluation page, and I'll look into getting it into a program. Sorry, what? Yeah. Well, coffee and gelato.
All right, are we ready? Thank y'all. My apologies. So this is not an exhaustive list. There's tons of stuff out there, and find what kind of resources really fit you as a fundraiser, fit you as an organization. And then my suggestion is to put it on your calendar to do professional development. If you're attending an event like this, then obviously it's on your calendar. But I would just encourage you to set aside time in your calendar every week for professional development. So if that's reading articles, if that's looking at blogs, if that's calling a fellow fundraiser with a problem that you want to discuss, whatever it is, put it on your calendar, and that way nobody schedules over it. I'm a big believer in blocking off your calendar for things that are important, even if it's not an event that you're attending or an appointment. So I like to, if you get on the mailing list to some of these organizations, they'll send you, emails and things like that. I like to just have a folder in my inbox for professional development, and I just stick those things in the folder as it comes in, and then the hour that I've set aside every week for fundraising professional development, I go into that folder and I see what's there. So it may work best for you to do it a different way, but whatever system is going to work for you, find time to dedicate yourself to some kind of professional development. And that can be around a type of fundraising you're interested in or a particular challenge you're facing. So several of you are talking about board involvement. Find some professional development on best practices for board involvement in fundraising. Do your research. It will really help. Any thoughts about this or other resources you like? Anyone else have anything to add?
I was going to say, for people who are currently experiencing board development and board sorts of things, if you can find the couple of board members who seem on board,
yes,
no pun intended, ask them. Sometimes they've served on other boards, or sometimes they know people who are serving on other boards. You can ask them for advice and counseling and things like that. The Legal Aid of Arkansas recently had huge success just asking our board members, hey, can you put me in touch with a couple of people, either executive directors of other agencies or other boards that you serve on? And I was able to get a lot of insight from a couple of other local professionals in the area. So
that's an awesome idea. Yeah. Anyone else have an idea for getting professional development? Or
We have Candid Learning on our website.
there you go. So Candid is the organization that manages Foundation Directory that we talked about. They do, yes, they should be on this list. They do a lot of resources too. And to your point about using other organizations, if there's another organization who has a really strong fundraising board, and we have many of those in Northwest Arkansas, have their board members come talk to your board members. Like doing that board-to-board, peer-to-peer education is really effective. So I've done that before. Had the board chair and the development committee chair of a really successful organization come talk to your board about how does our board operate with fundraising, what are our expectations, how does it work, and then most importantly, what kind of success we're seeing because of it, right? If you are a organization that there are other organizations, so for example, if you're addressing food insecurity, if there's other organizations in other communities doing similar work, benchmark yourself against those. What does their fundraising look like? And find somebody that's really successful. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Find a model that already works and ask those people to share. And most of the time, they're happy to. Fundraisers, I think, tend to be generous with each other most of the time. So find somebody else that can give you some tips. Because the challenges you're facing, and I hope that this session has made that clear, it's very common challenges that lots of organizations face. So you're not alone, and you don't have to come up with a solution by yourself, right? I love that idea of doing that. Mm-hmm.
I sometimes summarize it as good things come to those who ask, because I found that when you just ask people, they're usually, 90% of the time, they're happy to answer at some point.
I love it. Yeah, and organizations always have things to share, right? So if, for example, board fundraising is a challenge for you and you ask an organization to help you, you probably are doing something that they would be interested in learning about too. So that kind of information swap is super helpful. Okay. Any other resources that you all use for professional development or have heard of that we need to be aware of? Like I said, I know there are lots of them, but I'm just trying to... Yes, Sean?
AFP?
Yes. How do we feel about AFP?
Haven't tried it yet.
Association of Fundraising Professionals. It's the largest and oldest organization. Professional development organization for fundraisers, and so I've been associated with AFP for many years, and they're a great resource. We have a local chapter, it's the Northwest Arkansas chapter of AFP, and then there's national AFP organization. So they're absolutely a good resource for that too, yeah.
Yeah, I just became a member of that, and they're going to do their mentorship program,
Awesome.
intro, kickoff type of thing too. So if you're looking for a mentor like I am in some focus area, yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, FP of Northwest Arkansas is our chapter here. Yes, thank you, Sean. That's a good call out. Okay. Yes. All right, so the other thing is self-motivation. I think this is one of the things that makes fundraising challenging, and I wanted to talk about it because it's worth focusing on a little bit. Because if you're on program staff at an organization, usually there's more than one program staff. Unless you are a relatively young organization and there's one executive director and it's the only staff, or you have a pretty broad team of volunteers that all are doing your programs together. In fundraising, fundraising should be a team effort, but when you're first starting, sometimes it's just you, right? Sometimes you feel like you don't have the board support you need yet, although you will, or there's no other, it's very common for there to be no other fundraising staff member but you. Maybe you're an executive director and you're the only staff member who engages in fundraising as part of your job description. Maybe you're a development director or development coordinator and you're the only person who is full-time in development, and so you're the only person that's waking up every day thinking just about development. So it really requires a lot of self-motivation to be an effective fundraiser. And if you're a part-time fundraiser, volunteer fundraiser, same thing. Especially if you're a volunteer fundraiser, if you're a board member, you've got a lot of other responsibilities in your life. You really have to be self-motivated. And so I want you just to think a little bit about how do you keep yourself motivated in fundraising. And I think once you do a little bit of fundraising, and you're going to like it. You're going to be motivated because you're going to enjoy it. If you're doing it the right way, relationship building. But especially in the beginning, how are you going to motivate yourself? And this is really a personal question. It's different for everybody, going to look different for each of you. But I would say, embrace the fact that you are a fundraiser. So that's number one. Like, fundraising is not just something that, I have to do this every once in a while, or, I don't want to do this. Like, really embrace the fact that you are a fundraiser. Create time for it. So if that's blocking time on your schedule for it, if that's setting a goal monthly that you are going to hold yourself accountable to meet, if that's giving some of your responsibilities to other volunteers or to other staff members who can help you so that you have a little more free time for fundraising, whatever you need to do, create time for it. Commit to it. Hold yourself accountable. Again, if you have a development plan, that's why I really believe in the development plan, because this has all this in here for you already. Like, it already has your goals and your metrics and responsibilities and all that stuff. Celebrate success. Sometimes as fundraisers, like, we're always, this is especially true in the nonprofit sector, I think, like, in the nonprofit world, like, we're always thinking about what we're not doing instead of thinking about what we are doing, right? Does anybody do that? Like, I wish that I could be serving this, or I wish I could have a location here, or I wish we could expand to this program, blah, blah, blah. And you're so busy thinking about what you're not doing that you're forgetting to celebrate the things that you are doing that are amazing. And we're dreamers, and we should be, we should be dreamers. But it's really important just to, like, focus on, hey, I raised this amount of money. Our organization is here serving these people today. It's in part because of the work that I do, that we do as a team. Like, that's something that you ought to celebrate regularly. And so be sure you're not falling into the trap of just always thinking about, this scarcity mindset instead of this mindset of let's celebrate what we have done. I always say that your volume is not your value, right? If you're in the business of changing people's lives, whatever scale you're doing that on is great and should be celebrated. Find what works for you. Again, it's going to be different for everybody. Schedule things, schedule time for professional development, schedule time for your fundraising activities, block it off in your calendar, and then create fundraising habits. So I think I mentioned in one of our other sessions that when I was on staff, when I was a full-time fundraiser, like, the first hour of Monday and the last hour of Friday were always blocked off on my schedule for writing thank you notes. It's always what I did, first thing in the week and the last thing in the week. And everybody knew, like, I don't accept meetings at those times, right? Unless we are, the only time that I ever didn't hold to that, we had a day when we had a woman come into shelter who had called us, on our hotline, which is the way it works, told us that she needed shelter. Well, she did not mention that she was in labor and that she had 5 children with her. So she showed up with 5 children. She's in active labor. Abusive husband is at the hospital with her doctor. So that was that required about 10 staff people, including myself, to figure out where she's going to go, where the kids are going to go. We need newborn supplies. And that's the only time that I ever broke my rule about, thank you notes first thing Monday and last thing Friday. So whatever works for you, like whatever your work schedule is or your volunteer schedule is, like find a way to build it in that you're going to be doing fundraising all the time. I would love to know you all's tips and tricks for this, if you have any. Or what do you do to make sure that you have time? Or ideas of things you're going to do. Yeah.
Set aside deer time, so drop everything and read.
Yeah.
So I have to have it. So lunch break or something, yeah.
Yes, perfect. Yeah,
As
sure.
you celebrate your success, I'm just thinking about past organizations that I've worked for. One thing that comes up is you're celebrating the success and you invite everyone and maybe you forget someone. So every day or every week, you should be writing down who's been working on that with you so you don't let them slip through the cracks so they're not left out of the celebration.
Yes, that's a great idea. Having a system for keeping track of who's involved. That's a great idea. Who else? Tips, tricks, habits that help you. This and think about what kind of habits you need to create. And sometimes this is related to your challenges, whatever is getting in your way. What things can you put in place kind of structurally in your life to overcome those things? And then finally, I think all fundraisers, this is really critical and kind of the focus of our time today. All fundraisers need friends who understand fundraising, right? It's hard to be an effective fundraiser if you're not spending time with other fundraisers because they're the people that get it. They get your challenges, they have ideas for ways that you could overcome them. And I think that takes a lot of intentionality. Like you have to be intentional about building relationships with other fundraisers. And especially at organizations that are a similar size to yours, that, if you're a social service organization, look for social service organizations because to you. And this could be, I believe in both of these things. Building relationships with fundraisers who are in the similar stage of career as you. So if you have just joined your organization, you're building, your program from the ground up. Sandra is doing that right now. Like who else is out there that's doing that too at another organization? Because you're going to tell them your challenges and they're going to say, oh my gosh, me too. I can't believe it. What are we going to do? And now you have a connection, right?
So fun story, met with Leilani Friday.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
It's almost like I introduced you on purpose for that reason.
I know.
How did it go?
It was great. We're going to do this every couple weeks.
She texted me. She said, I think Sandra is my new best friend. Yes, which is great. Yeah. So I think, finding someone that's in a similar stage of their career as you and an organization that's similar in size. If you're a volunteer fundraiser, who are other volunteer fundraisers that can help you? If you're serving on a board, if you're fundraising as a board member, who else is out there do you know that would be in a similar situation as you? And then I also really believe, of course, in mentoring. So that would be someone, of course, who has a lot more experience than you, not in the same stage as you are, but seek a mentor. And so this could be a formal mentor process, like Sandra, you're doing something through AFP. GPA also has a mentoring program. Or just ask someone, hey, would you mentor me for a while because I'm trying to learn this and I know you have a lot of experience in this. And so that can be super, super helpful. And I've had some really great mentors in my life, and the thing that I value most about them, the thing that helped me most was just they would say to me, okay, calm down, it's gonna be okay. Right? Like, I can't do this, I don't know what it is, what is this? I don't know. And they'd just be like, we've all been there, it's okay. Right? You're gonna be fine. And I think that kind of reassurance was just very helpful to me when I started fundraising, when I was new, especially. And then when you have a mentor, that person is a cheerleader for you always, right? My mentors they're still the people that I go to when I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, right? And I think that's just so important. So if you have an ego or a pride that is getting in your way of asking someone to mentor you, please just do what you can to get over it, right? Find somebody that will be willing to sort of take you on and share with you. And then friends who are fundraisers who face similar challenges and have the same level of commitment as you to fundraising, which is really important. Someone who's dependable, and then someone with whom you have good professional chemistry, right? That there are some people that you just are naturally more comfortable with, naturally more comfortable being honest with, being vulnerable with than others. Those are the people that are best for you to spend time with, because if you're not open and honest about your challenges, it's not going to work, right? So find people that you're really comfortable with. And then I would recommend meeting regularly with them. Like Sandra said, you're going to have a regular thing. It's great. Meet regularly, talk about these challenges, like where are you on these challenges, ask for, advice or just commiseration. We had a group of fundraisers when I was new that we were all new to fundraising. We're all kind of in the same stage of our careers. And we would get together and a lot of times, we wouldn't have the solutions, but it felt really good just to say, I'm struggling with this, and the next person would say, yes, me too. And the next person would say, yes, me too. And it was just great to know that I wasn't alone. Because I think as fundraisers, if it can be a little isolating if there's nobody else on your staff that understands, and so having that person that understands is just super great. And then have people that can cheer for you and support you. I would love to know if any of you have had professional relationships like this, or if you have any thoughts about this. I would love to hear that. No. Who would be interested in having either one of these, mentors or a support system? Okay, good. We have work to do. Excellent. And this is like a random tips page that I didn't know what to say. I didn't know where else to put this. I follow fundraisers and fundraising organizations on social media. So whatever organizations are doing great fundraising in our community, like be sure you're following them, because just following them will give you ideas. Like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Maybe we could do something similar. When I was on staff at the women's shelter, what I did was I made a donation to Peace at Home, to Center for Sexual Assault, to the Children's Advocacy Center, the Children's Safety Center, so that I would be on all their email lists, because I wanted to know, what are they doing that we could do? You get a lot of good ideas that way. I follow a lot of, because I work with Northwest Arkansas Food Bank, I follow a lot of hunger relief organizations in Northwest Arkansas, and I'm always getting ideas of oh yeah, they're doing this and this and this and that. You can really get a lot of creative ideas that way. Start with easy wins. So, if you're starting out in fundraising, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna commit to this, we're gonna put together our plan, we're gonna go for it. Start with the people who are your best friends already, right? Whoever is closest to your organization already, start with those people. And just say to them, I've done this. We're starting this fundraising program and I need someone to practice on. Could we go to lunch and could I practice on you? And they're like, sure. Start with the people that you are already friends with, and just build from there, right? Already said, put fundraising on your calendar. Ask experienced fundraisers for tips. So even if you're not in an official, mentorship relationship or support system, don't be afraid to ask somebody, hey, I heard you made a comment about this. Could you tell me what you do there? Fundraisers are usually pretty supportive of each other, in my experience. Benchmark other organizations' fundraising programs. So again, fundraisers are usually supportive. So, ask other fundraising organizations how they measure success, what their planning process is like, how they get their board involved. My main theme here is ask, ask, ask. And then my favorite, ask your donors for advice. So probably all of your organizations have some donors, maybe not as many as you'd like, but you probably have a handful at least, right? Meet with those donors and say, hey, we're really wanting to increase our sustainability, we're grants heavy, we need to have more individual donors. Would you be willing to meet with me and just give me any ideas that you have? Or would you be willing to share your experience as a donor with me? And donors almost always love that. It's the if you want advice, ask for money, and if you want money, ask for advice, right? So start with your donors. Again, people that already love you, get them on board. And a lot of times they'll be like, hey, I know this, my friend down the street, they're looking for an organization to support for their holiday party this year. Great, let me connect to them. They'll kind of come up with ideas for you too. So don't forget to involve your donors. Okay, so in the remaining few minutes we have together, I wanted to ask you, and this is just an open question. We did this 4-part series because Kelly and I talked about, we've both had the experience of people coming to us saying, hey, I need fundraising help, but I don't know where to get it. I haven't done this before. I only do this part-time. I don't really know what all this is about. And one of the things that we wanted to do through this is provide information, free. But also the other thing we really wanted to do is kind of see if we could build some community and kind of a support system. So a lot of you raised your hands wanting some sort of support, ongoing support. So I wanted to just open the floor about, like, what would that look like to you? Like, if we wanted to stay in touch, or if you wanted to stay in touch with some of the folks today, like, can I support you? Can the library support you? Like, what does that look like moving forward for you? And I don't have an answer for that. I just wanted to ask the question. So, yes.
I mean, we've got this lovely room here in the hallway. If we just showed up here and spent an hour and we could brainstorm what we're working on that week and things like that, that's just an idea. I'm just thinking about it.
Yes. Like a fundraising support group here at the library?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be once a week. It could be once every other week or once a month even. But yeah, that's an opportunity in an ongoing way to get people who weren't able to be here for this first round. They can then be introduced to the group. And have we seen the first two of the videos yet? We came here halfway through, so we were just able to be here less than this time. But yeah, if those videos are going to be available online, something that could be like, hey, you can watch this, come talk about it with people who are in the same industry.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. Do we like that? Do we like that idea? Would others be interested in doing something like that? Some sort of ongoing, open door.
So we had something like that, especially when we were going through college. We have what we call a forum, and it was really, really effective because there was an immediate need, so people were willing to attend. So what we found is the need down, participation also began going down. So I would say, I totally agree having a forum that we can come and ask for, hey, I'm going to this challenge, what do you think, any ideas about it? But also be creative on how do we encourage the participation so that we always don't have the same two people on the line.
Right, all right. So that's the question for the rest of you. What would motivate you to come?
And don't say free coffee, I can't do that.
Maybe have a specific topic that would attract people to participate, and then after that one, there is an opportunity to share the challenges that you're going through.
I like it. What else would be helpful? Do we use social media? Do people use Facebook? Leilani is not here, but she had made the suggestion to me of having like a closed group on Facebook where you could post things like, I'm struggling with this week, or does anybody have this? Or
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. To let people connect themselves if they want.
I'm a part of a bunch of librarian interest groups, and I steal their programs all the time.
Yeah.
There is an NWA nonprofit group.
The Nonprofit Alliance, is that what you mean?
I think so.
Yeah. And that is a great resource too, if you're not connected with them, NWA Nonprofit Alliance. All right.
If you guys think of anything later too, you can just email with me or.
For sure. Well, the group would be easy. We can create that. And I think Leilani's idea, her suggestion was that would be a place where you could feel free to ask questions that you might not want to post publicly for the world to see. Okay. Anything else that would be helpful to you all moving forward in building your support system?
Maybe we could submit information about ourselves and our organizations to you, and if you know of someone that's in a similar place and
Yeah, for sure.
your organization, you maybe help match that up a little bit.
For sure. And if you all want to send me your information, like what kind of support you need, I could just send out a list to everybody, so that you can connect your own selves, anybody who would be willing to be a resource. Yeah, we could follow up with that for sure.
Maybe like a mentorship speed dating program.
Right. Okay. What else would be helpful? Do we feel better about our ability to move forward in fundraising?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to say that it was a great excuse during my board meeting last night to say, okay, in the class, they said that we need to have 100% from everyone, and that's my homework, so I have to go back to the class and say that we did it. Okay, we're going to do it. Okay, so how much are we going to give everyone? So,
Did it work?
it worked.
Yes.
Good job.
Excellent. And you can always say, Melanie said so. Not that I am the end-all be-all expert, but for some reason, if consultant is behind your name, some people are like, oh, okay, yes, awesome. I'm glad that worked. That's great. Yeah. Any other thoughts or questions about anything that we've talked about? Several of you have been here all four sessions. I applaud you. Okay, we will send a follow-up email with this presentation, and I said we, Addison, thank you so much. I shouldn't say we. I was doing the we means you thing too. Addison will send out this presentation, and then we'll also work on putting together those things that we've talked about. So if you're interested in being a support group, you can provide me with your information. We can pretty easily put together a closed Facebook group and invite you all, anybody that's attended these. And then I can talk with Cassie about if we have some sort of ongoing, sort of structured, topicked open forum here at the library. Would be fun. All right, well, I thank you all for coming. I really appreciate getting to know all of you a little bit. It's been really fun, and I hope it's been useful to you. And be sure to fill out your evaluation forms if you haven't already. And especially I think there's a question about additional, there's not. But on the additional comments, if there's any other topic that we didn't cover that you would really like to see, could you put those in the additional comments section? That would be awesome. All right, thank you all. Thank you for coming.